So you want a ceasefire, but we had Christopher Luxon on this program previously. He hasn't directly said that that's what he is calling for. So is that National's position?
The position is we think that the various conditions that need to be met by both parties here. But
this is the really important part.
What?
Right?
Fuck.
No, just stick with me. This is really important, and this will show you exactly what National's doing. Conditions that both parties need to adhere to. That's what he said, right? He said that National's position, we'll go back and get it word for word, but I'm paraphrasing it. National's position is calling for the ceasefire, but there are some conditions that both sides need to meet. Have a listen again.
The position is we think that the various conditions that need to be met by both parties here, both Hamas and the Israeli Defense Force, need to be recognised and worked through. One of the problems you've got, of course, is that Hamas is a terrorist organisation. So
you mentioned conditions.
This is the perfect question. So Jenny May is going to go, what are these conditions? Because remember what he said. I'm going to remind you of it, even though he's just said it, that both parties, there are conditions that both parties, that means Israel and Hamas, need to meet for the ceasefire. Both parties, Jenny May is about to ask the perfect question. What are those conditions?
In your last answer, and in a release that came out yesterday, it says National supports the goal of a ceasefire, but acknowledge that conditions have not existed for one so far. When you talk about those conditions, what are you talking about?
Remember, the conditions, as he said, that both parties need to meet. Now, Chewy, you might be surprised. Jerry Brownlee's now asked to expand on what are the conditions that both parties need to meet. He's very forthcoming with the conditions that Hamas needs to meet. But guess who he doesn't talk about having any conditions to meet? The other party. So on one hand, he's saying both parties have to meet the conditions, but when asked to explain it, all he talks is about the conditions that Hamas needs to meet.
Mr. Brownlee?
Primarily the release of the hostages and the
which hostages?
Stop using the population of Gaza as some kind of human shield. It's look, the whole situation is utterly appalling.
That's it.
And there needs to be a recognition that
hold yourself, Chewy. I'll come back to
terrorist organisation that attacked Israel in the first place is now using the people of Gaza to further their own ends. And I think, supposedly in support of them, and that those sort of things need to be set aside. There does need to be a dialogue, and the saddest thing is that a lot of people are dying while all this is going on.
Now, I didn't want to cut that last answer short because I didn't want someone to then say to me, well, he would have mentioned the conditions later on. He said very clearly there are conditions that both parties need to meet. Jenny May, please, Mr. Brownlee, explain the conditions that needs to be met. Well, Hamas has to do this and this and this. I thought it was both parties. And unfortunately, Jenny May didn't follow up with a question, which I would have done. Okay, so that's the condition of Hamas. What are the conditions that Israel has to meet? Now, let me make this clear for you people out there who think we are pro-terrorists. Again, we have stated blatantly and openly that what Hamas has done is an act of war. Put it on the table. However, if someone's going to say, a politician's going to say, now, Labour has said they want a ceasefire. What do you want? And then basically say 20 different ways we want a ceasefire, but refuse to say the words we call for a ceasefire. 20 different ways say there's responsibility on both sides, but only points to one side. Then that is a bias within this new upcoming government that is pretty scary to me, Joey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, Hamas are going to do this, and this. IDF must cease combat operations for a period of 5 days, 6 days, whatever. Yeah. They must allow aid convoys through, fuel, food, medicine. They must release the civilian captives that they have in Israeli prisons at the moment. There's lots that you can say there. They all seem to be tripping over themselves that if they don't frame this in the right way, that will be an international pariah. And we would have all fucked up it. These guys think that New Zealand is too small to matter. But then when it comes to something like this, are paralyzed by the potential for saying something incorrectly. If they keep this simple, you can do it. you can just go, we call for a ceasefire.